Illinois has the second highest gas tax in the country and the highest gas tax in the region, and that gas tax continues to go up every July 1st. It's actually gone up once already this year. January 1st it went up and set to go up again July 1st. And this after state lawmakers in a bipartisan efforts decided to double your state gas tax from 19 cents to 38 cents, and then they tacked on a whole bunch of other tax and fee increases. If you remember the whole debacle about how they increased the trailer fee to like $150 or something like that. It was like the $100 and some odd dollar increase, and then they had to reduce that, calling it a Scribner's error. But regardless, you still have a lot of fees that were increased to pay for infrastructure. And it's an ongoing conversation among some. Others, they don't want to see any diminishment of those taxpayer resources. So they can continue to get contracts for jobs, for construction jobs, engineering jobs, and so on, because it's not cheap, right? I mean, roads and bridges, we want to make sure that they are fully funded, and that's why we had the lockbox amendment several years ago. If you recall, it was one of those amendments that succeeded, and it said that any transportation dollars need to go into a lockbox and not be swept for other purposes. So now they've got billions and billions of dollars, especially from the doubling of the state's gas tax, that's going into the road fund to pay for these construction projects. And you have, as part of that doubling of the state's gas tax from 2019, the Rebuild Illinois plan that Governor J.B. Pritzker put out. And he got bipartisan support. But now here we are after the state suspended the July 1st gas tax increase that was supposed to happen last year. They suspended that for 6 months to where it increased on January 1st of this year, but it's still set to increase again July 1st, and that's pegged to inflation. I think in 2020 it went up like 2 cents. In 2021 it went up another 2 or 3 cents. 2022 it went up again. In 2022 they delayed that to January 1st, and where it went up about 3 cents. What it's going to increase again July 1st, not too sure, but we'll be watching that closely, as again you've got the gas tax with annual increases after doubling in 2019. State Representative Adam Niemerg, he has a bill at the Illinois State House to essentially reduce the state's gas tax back to 19 cents a gallon. And I chatted with him briefly last week to talk about why he wants this bill to reduce the state's gas tax, and here's some of his rationale.
Well, I think it'd be a really good idea to have some tax relief on the folks here in the state of Illinois. And then last year, the income that was generated from the fuel tax was higher than the year before, and we're looking at continual increase. So if we're arguing about revenues, the revenues are there, and they can find the money for roads and bridges and things that they need for that nature. But, during COVID, I was calling for some gas tax relief. I was calling for some relief for working class families, and we quite frankly weren't getting it from the governor's office. And we go into this year, and what happens? The gas tax increases again. Well, we have a $50 billion budget that the governor has put forth for this fiscal year. And to look at the government inefficiencies, the spending, the out-of-control spending that's going on in the state of Illinois, we have more than enough income coming in to give folks an adequate tax hike. If we cut some of this government waste, some of these inefficient programs that the governor and the Democrats keep enacting, we'd have a lot of money. And I also have bills for an income tax relief. So if you have a child you're a dependent of a child, you have $1,500 per child as an Illinois state income tax relief. So we really need to be looking at helping middle-class working families in the state of Illinois, and having the gas tax go back to what it was in 2019 is a step in the right direction.
So again, that's Republican State Representative Adam Niemerg with his idea to reduce the state's gas tax from where it's at right now, about 40 some odd cents, like 46, 47 cents now, to 19 cents. And you got to think also there's other taxes on top of that. It's not just the motor fuel tax. It's also the sales tax on top of the sale of the gas that you get taxed on. All of the states and extra excise taxes and the federal tax makes Illinois number 2 in the country for gas taxes, behind, I believe, only California. We're tied for second in state gas taxes, but still, when you add all the taxes together, it's a lot of tax. But last week also you had the Association of various engineering groups in Illinois line up and provide for their agenda, which included a variety of different things. The American Council of Engineering Companies of Illinois, they laid out what they want to see at the State House in their agenda, and that agenda includes tax credits to get more engineering students to Illinois, more engineering candidates to Illinois. They're also looking to require more affidavits to be filed if there's a lawsuit filed against an engineering company. So they want to make sure that they push back against any what some see as frivolous lawsuits. So you've got that as part of their agenda. But topping their agenda also was how they said they want to preserve the tax increase that pays for the multi-year Rebuild Illinois construction program. And they specifically point to State Representative Adam Niemerg's House Bill 1575. Well, Kevin Artle, he is with the American Council of Engineering Companies in Illinois. I asked him when he was at a news conference last week, when's enough? When is enough tax money to pay for these things enough? Here's Kevin Artle.
On is the backlog of projects. I mean, when you don't make an investment in infrastructure for 20 years or 30 years, you have massive deterioration. I mean, keep in mind, Rebuild Illinois isn't a whole lot about adding new capacity. It was built out basically as a maintenance and repair program. Now, on top of that, with IIJA, now Illinois is probably one of the best positioned states in the nation, if not the best in the nation, because of the leadership of Governor Pritzker and the bipartisan support in the legislature to pass Rebuild Illinois, that we now have access to so much federal funds. And on top of that, you saw the city of Chicago implement a capital program. You saw DuPage County, Will County, Kane County, Lake County. So now, I mean, I would say it's probably the most fiscally responsible effort we've done, because we are in the best spot now to capture so much in federal funds to come back to Illinois. And I think our position here is, we made a promise to voters, right? The lawmakers made a promise that if we're going to vote for this funding mechanism for Rebuild Illinois, and on top of it, but you're going to get a modern transportation infrastructure network. And our statement here is, let's keep that promise.
So again, Kevin Artle with the American Council on Engineering Companies of Illinois, pushing back against the idea of reducing Illinois' gas taxes. So interesting to see that. And listen, I don't think Representative Niemerg has any illusions as to whether or not his measures are going to advance. But I think a lot of times the Republicans in the super minority, they're putting stuff out as conversation starters. And one thing that Niemerg points out is that we've got a $50 billion budget that the governor's proposing. And you got to think that there's got to be some money in there for some tax relief if $50 billion is above and beyond what the state of Illinois has spent in the previous budgets in the past. So how do you go about handling all of that? And listen, that's also not to even mention the amount of pension debt there is, $140+ billion. That doesn't even take into consideration the other post-employment benefits of fully subsidized retiree health care for Tier 1 employees that retire from state government, and all the other added costs that there are to that. So there's a lot of debt in Illinois, a lot of infrastructure too. It's also got to be pointed out, we are like the main arteries for the country's transportation. The state of Illinois very much is a major transportation hub, not just for major highways, but you've also got 7 Class 1 railroad systems in the state of Illinois, plus locks and dams. So, I think there's a lot of support for the idea of having these funds available for infrastructure. But then taxpayers, they get hit with the taxes. And when you've got energy costs that continue to be elevated, this is just another added cost. It makes certain types of travel, even for work, out of reach for those lower income residents. So fascinating to see all that take place as well. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Hey, if you like what I do, be sure to follow along. All right, Bishop on Air. You can search Twitter, you can search Facebook. YouTube's a great place for you to do that as well, to find clips of interviews and call-in segments, all available on our YouTube page. Just search Bishop on Air. We got a moment here for a phone call. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What's going on?
Greg, I was trying to figure out what great things the governor's done for the state, other than make it worse than what it already has been. I mean, I don't understand how they can promote, oh, he's done such great things. Well, you know they're not going to spend any of that money to give back to the taxpayers. That's not going to happen.
Well, but they claim they did that last year. That it was like $1.8 billion in property tax rebates, income tax rebates. The gas tax was suspended for 6 months. The grocery tax of 1% was suspended for a full year.
Right, okay. All that stuff's great, but it didn't add up to really a whole lot of anything. The gas tax was still there. Yep. It just didn't get raised.
It didn't get raised by like 2 cents. Right?
And the food sales tax, that was a good thing. I will give them credit for that.
But even then, it's only 1%. I mean, 1% of a $100 grocery bill is what, $1? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. He didn't do us a whole lot of favors. So this guy that comes out there and toots his horn, I mean, the problem with Illinois is Chicago. And hopefully it starts with getting rid of this clown we got for a mayor right now up there, and maybe that'll start trickling down to the rest of the state.
Well, we'll see what happens. If you missed my interview with reporter William Kelly earlier last hour, I would suggest you go check that out on the YouTube channel, Bishop on Air. You can find it. And he predicts that Mayor Lightfoot's actually going to advance out of today's primary. And he says it's because of the jail vote, because apparently you can vote if you are in jail pending trial. And that's an Illinois law that was advanced a while back. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But fascinating to hear your thoughts. And anybody can call in at any time at 217-629-7970. We'll get to them if we've got time.